I hid $39 million from my family for 8 months, and I would do it again tonight if I had to. My name is Josie Calloway, and I'm 36 years old, and for 6 years my own sister told our parents I was broke, that I'd sunk every dollar I had into a dying farm nobody in their right mind would touch. I drove a truck with a cracked windshield held together by packing tape. I wore the same 3 flannel shirts on rotation. And to my family, I was always the dumb one, the daughter who threw her life away on dirt until I sold that farm for $39 million. I told no one, and 3 days later, what happened at my parents' kitchen table made me grateful for every single hour I stayed quiet. Welcome back. If you've ever been the one your family wrote off while you were quietly building something they couldn't see, this story is for you. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and subscribe, because you're going to want to see how this ends. Let me back up 10 years. My grandfather Earl left me 220 acres outside Chillicothe when he passed. Land that had been in soybeans and hard luck for 2 generations. And everyone in my family agreed it was worthless. My mother called it Earl's mistake. My father said the smart move was to sell it off in parcels and split the cash. My older sister Renee, who married a man who sold commercial real estate and never once let a family dinner pass without mentioning his last closing, said flat out that I was sentimental about dirt and it would be the death of me financially. I didn't sell it. I moved into the farmhouse the year I turned 27. Gave up a steady job doing agricultural accounting in Columbus, and started testing the soil myself because something in me couldn't let go of a place my grandfather had walked every morning for 40 years with coffee in a dented thermos. The first 4 years nearly broke me. I drove that truck with the cracked windshield because a new one wasn't in the budget. I wore the same flannels because clothes weren't either, and every Thanksgiving Renee would look at my hands, cracked and stained from soil work, and say something like, "Still playing farmer," with a laugh that had teeth in it. My mother never defended me. She'd just refill everyone's coffee and change the subject. And my father would talk about Renee's husband's newest listing like it was a Nobel Prize. I sat at that table year after year and let them believe whatever story was easiest for them to tell. Because arguing with people who have already decided who you are is like arguing with weather. What none of them knew is that in year 5, I stopped fighting the land and started listening to it. A soil scientist I'd hired out of my own savings found something in the Northeast 40 that changed everything. A mineral deposit, rare earth adjacent. The kind of find that mining and materials companies spend years searching for and almost never find on a family farm in southern Ohio. I sat on that report for 8 months before I told a single soul. Not because I was hiding it out of spite, but because I needed to understand exactly what I had before anyone else got a vote in what happened to it. I hired my own lawyer. A quiet woman named Denise Acoffer out of Cincinnati, who specialized in mineral rights and had seen exactly what happens to families the moment big money touches land that used to just grow beans. She told me something I never forgot. She said, "The day this becomes public, everyone who ever called you the dumb one is going to remember exactly how kind they were to you." Whether they were or not, 2 mining companies bid against each other for 14 months, and I let them. Because Denise taught me patience is the only leverage a small landowner ever really has. The final offer landed at $39 million for the mineral rights and a structured buyout of the surface acreage. And I signed those papers on a Tuesday in March, sitting in Denise's office with my hands actually shaking, thinking about my grandfather's dented thermos. I told no one, not my parents, not Renee. Not even my best friend from nursing school who I still talk to every week. I drove home in the same truck, cracked windshield and all. Because changing anything about how I looked felt like handing my family a clue I wasn't ready to give them. 3 days later, my mother called me crying. And my stomach dropped because I thought somehow the sale had leaked. But it wasn't that at all. It was Renee. Her husband's real estate firm had collapsed 2 commercial deals in the same quarter. They'd overextended on a strip mall investment in Dayton. And they were $40,000 behind on their own mortgage, with the bank threatening foreclosure inside 60 days. My mother didn't call to check on me. She called to ask, gently, carefully. The way you ask someone you've spent years dismissing, whether I had anything put away that could help your sister. Since I didn't really have expenses out there on the farm, I sat on my porch with the phone against my ear, and I looked out at 220 acres that were, as of that Tuesday, worth more than everyone else in my family's combined net worth several times over, and I said the only thing I could manage in that moment, which was let me think about it. I drove to my parents' house that Sunday for the dinner I'd been avoiding for 3 days, and Renee was already there, eyes red. Her husband sitting stiff and silent in the chair he usually held court from, and my father, without even looking up from his plate, said the sentence that finally broke something loose in me. He said, "You've always been good with money, Josie, more than Renee ever was. Surely you can spare something good with money." The same man who for 6 years let his other daughter call me the dumb one at this exact table, who never once corrected her, who never once asked what I was actually building out there, was now reminding the room that I was good with money the moment money was needed from me. I set my fork down and I asked, calmly, the way I used to explain hard numbers to farmers who couldn't make their books balance, whether anyone at that table had ever once asked me a single real question about the farm in 6 years, not how's the dirt, not one real question about what I was doing out there, what I'd built, what I'd risked. Nobody answered, because nobody had an answer. And that silence told me everything the last 6 years of laughter and comments never had. Then I told them. I told them about Earl's mistake, about the soil scientist, about the mineral deposit, about Denise Ackefer and 14 months of 2 companies bidding against each other, and about the number, $39 million, sitting in an account under my name alone. And I watched every face at that table rearrange itself in real time. My father's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. My mother's hand went to her chest, and Renee, whose 6 years of dumb one jokes had aged into muscle memory, just stared at me like she was seeing a stranger wearing her sister's flannel shirt. I want to be honest about what happened next, because it's the part people always ask me about. I did help Renee. I paid off the $40,000 behind on her mortgage, quietly through Denise, with one condition attached that had nothing to do with money. I told her that if she ever again called me the dumb one in front of our parents, in front of anyone, that loan would come with a very different kind of paperwork attached, a private note, due on demand. She hasn't said it since, not because she's grateful. I'm not sure gratitude ever fully arrived for her, but because she finally understood the ground had shifted permanently, and she was standing on the wrong side of it. My parents' relationship with me changed too. Though not in the fairy tale way you might hope, my mother tries now. She calls and asks real questions about the land, about what's next. And some days, I let her all the way in, and some days, I still feel that dented thermos silence between us. My father mostly talks about the farm now like it was always his idea to trust me. And I let him have that story because some battles aren't worth the breath. I kept the farmhouse. I didn't buy the mansion or the sports car everyone assumed a windfall like that demands. I fixed the windshield on that old truck instead of replacing it. Because that crack got me through 6 years, nobody believed in me. And some things you keep on purpose. What I learned sitting at that table for 6 years being called the dumb one is that the people who write you off first are usually the ones who end up needing you most. And the quiet you keep while they underestimate you is the only inheritance nobody can talk you out of. If you've ever been the one they doubted, the one who stayed quiet and just kept building anyway. I hope this one felt like it was written for you. Tell me in the comments what your own quiet chapter looked like, and subscribe, because there are a lot more of these stories still to tell.